welcome Debbie Oliver. You are the Executive Director of AmeriFace, an unusual organization that has been formed to reach a population that I think most people doesn't even cross their mental radar at all. Could you tell us a little bit about the organization?
Sure. AmeriFace serves patients and families who are dealing with the issues of facial birth defects, acquired facial differences, from burns, trauma, oral head and neck cancer, things like that. And it's funny that you would mention that it seems very unique, but cleft lip and palate is the most common birth defect right here in the United States. 1 in every 600 babies is born with an oral facial cleft. And most people believe that these conditions are of concern only in developing countries, when in fact it's the #1 birth anomaly right here.
You do not, people don't probably think about when that happens, that always happens to somebody else.
Absolutely, and that's what we thought. And one of our 6 children was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate in the 80s, and we felt very isolated, very alone. We didn't realize how common the condition really is.
Is the lack of information and resources to deal with those issues, give support, is that something that's not just general public, but what about the physicians, education system, the whole inner structure? Do they know how to deal with this issue?
That is an excellent question. Things are a lot different now than they were obviously 20 or 30 years ago, because we do have the internet. One thing we do caution patients and families about is the quality of information that they can find on the internet. But going back to your original question, the most difficult challenge is that there are specialized medical teams who provide the care, medical and dental care for these patients, and they have lives and practices dedicated to cleft and craniofacial conditions. However, your average pediatrician or your pediatric dentist or even an adult dentist, they're not normally seeing patients on any regular basis with these conditions. The school system as well. Even though 1 in 600 children is affected with, say for instance, a cleft lip and palate, if there were about 800 children in an elementary school, for instance, they may only have very few in their career at that particular school. Very few students come through the system who's affected with one of these conditions.
AmeriFace started in 1991. Can you tell us how that came about?
Sure. AmeriFace was originally known by another corporate name, and I'll tell you a little bit about that transition. And it was started by parents like myself who said, you know, there has to be some support out there. Someone out there has to know what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And there was this desire to offer support to families who were coming after us. Cleft Advocate is one of the programs of AmeriFace, and really was the largest web presence, the internet presence, when those types of things were just coming online with support groups and services that would allow just about anybody to start a website. And so in working with the various organizations, large and small, around the country, the initial organization started in 1991, partnered with the Cleft Advocate program, and became AmeriFace several years later. So this year we are celebrating our combined years of support, 20 years of support since 1991.
When you discovered that your child had an issue, describe what happened then. I mean, I'm assuming there were all the feelings of what happened, what did I do, or did we do something wrong, did I not eat the right, I don't know all of, but I'm assuming there were lots of questions that went through your mind, and probably very few places to get good answers.
Well, in our case, which is not very different from families what they're dealing with today, We did not know until our daughter was born that she was going to have a cleft. Nowadays, as early as 16 to 18 weeks in pregnancy, a cleft or other craniofacial condition can be diagnosed by ultrasound, so it's very different. There's a preparation period. Some find that a very positive experience, and other women, mothers in particular, find that a very negative experience because of the anxiety that comes into play. In our situation, doctor said, "Congratulations, it's a girl. She has a cleft, and we can fix that." And I had no idea what she was talking about. So, unlike today, where you can go home and pop on the internet and find our website in particular and other organizations out there that can assist, we didn't have that. We just went home with our baby and wondered what was next.
And what did you do?
Well,
or what was available?
Well, we were very fortunate in Southern California at the time. The small birthing hospital where our daughter was born immediately called the nearest craniofacial team, and they sent their coordinator out within a few hours of her being born. And they did a medical evaluation, and they said, "A week from today you will bring her and visit the craniofacial team, and we'll evaluate and set out a course of treatment." That isn't always the case even today. All these years later, and my daughter is in her 20s now, all these years later, there are babies that are sent home without referral to a craniofacial team, or they're sent home without a proper feeding device because our children can't eat like other babies can. And that's when we step into action and we help those parents who hopefully find us on the internet or through one of the thousands of volunteers that we have across the country, can lead them in the right direction.
So when part of your activities are to have support groups, are there groups that meet to sort of explain to parents what's going to happen, give them some sense of that there is hope?
Well, we liken ourselves to, let me rephrase that. We are not a support group, and that shocks a lot of people. What we are is a support network. Here's an example. A support group may meet once a month, say on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, first Wednesday of the month. If we put out an invitation, or any organization puts out an invitation like that, there's only a percentage of folks that can actually be there at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. Maybe they're working, maybe their child has soccer. It could be any number of reasons why they can't make that meeting. With AmeriFace and the Pathfinder Outreach Network, we can help 24/7 because we have an online presence. We have thousands of volunteers around the country and around the world who are willing to pick up the phone or send a personal email or meet with families face to face. And so we are there to let them know the most important things they need to know right away: how to feed their baby, how to hook up with a craniofacial team, and I'm right there with you because I know exactly how you feel.
There's someone they can make contact with who will give them real answers.
Immediately. And we do have a toll-free hotline as well.
What is that number?
1-888-486-1209.
And you have a website, which is?
Our website is at AmeriFace.org, and our most popular program, just statistically speaking, 1 in 600 babies is born with a cleft lip and palate in this country, and they can find our information at cleftadvocate.org.
How many people do you think you've interacted with through AmeriFace?
It has been an incredible 20-year journey. I was just, coincidentally, somebody had asked me about the statistics just this past week. Our listserv, called the Family to Family Connection, it's hosted by the Genetic Alliance in Washington, D.C. Just in the last 5 years alone, we've delivered over 17 million pieces of email.
That's awesome.
We've had about 1.3 million hits to the AmeriFace and the Cleft Advocate websites alone, and we do have other related websites supporting families whose children have other craniofacial conditions.
We were talking before we began taping this program about the fact that running an organization out of Las Vegas is a challenge, but it's just another example some good things that are coming out of Las Vegas that aren't necessarily associated with what Las Vegas is most famous for. I want to thank you for what you're doing and for appearing on the Innerview. And what you're doing is so real, and we're all in favor of that.
Thank you very much for the privilege.
Thank you.